Hi everybody, Dana Harris Seeger here at my studio at Visual Philosophy. Today I want to talk about a couple creative prompts that will help you boost your creativity, maybe get out of a rut, and just not have to think so hard about what to create. So I've got a piece here that I started a little bit ago. And the first thing I wanted to start with was using a piece that I had previously worked on, but maybe didn't like. But I saved it anyway, and I painted over it because I didn't like the way it was going and as a print. So I used that as just a base and started to paint over it and cover over it with some acrylic paint. And I started with a dark color. And so now what I'm going to do is, since I have a dark base, I'm going to paint with some lighter tones over it now that it's dried and it won't smear. And then for prompt number 1, you're going to use a different type of mark and scratch through the lighter layer and get some texture from the undercolor. So you can see here where I'm painting, I've got sort of like a scumbled look where the dark texture of the paint that has dried is showing through the lighter color, and I'm scratching through the wet lighter layer and really getting those lines to show through that dark color. And this really works if it's got a high contrast. So you could start with a lighter base, go over it after it's dry with a dark color, and the same effect will happen. You'll just have kind of white scratchy marks instead of dark scratchy marks. But I just use anything. You can use the back of your paintbrush. You could use something like a toothpick or even like a crayon or a pencil, but you'll end up getting paint on it. So that's why I like to use the back of my paintbrush to do this. And then just wipe it off. And you can do this with oil paint or acrylic paint. The nice thing about the acrylic paint is that it dries really fast. So you don't have to wait for that underlayer to dry too long. So for this next prompt, we are going to use or kind of reference a palimpsest, and that is the kind of the residue of what's underneath showing through. So I've started with a piece that I previously worked on. It had printmaking, it had painting and drawing, and I love all that texture. And what I'm doing now, and I encourage you to do for this prompt, is to cover over that. You can cover over it with an opaque layer, kind of like I'm doing. A little bit of transparent medium might help. You can leave certain parts, like I've left a little bit of the viewfinder, but just think about how you can create a lot of coverage and only reveal certain parts. So that could mean that you sort of softly remove some of that top layer like I did with the paper towel, or you can leave, like use a stencil to leave holes of the underlayer, but something that you can see through that top coverage. And what I like about this is that you just get a variety of textures. You can see the results on top, but you can also see the kind of what's buried underneath. And that's the palimpsest. That's the hidden layers that have been worked and reworked over and again. So that is what I encourage you to do for prompt number 2. So now for prompt number 3, I want to use a different texture. So I've been using paint and scratching and even some soft pastels. And now I'm going to be adding some oil pastels and crayons that give a slightly different texture. So think about whether you're working mostly in a smooth, soft, smeary texture, and then adding something harsh like a stencil or collage element, or if you're working really rough and scratchy and you want to add some, softer, more smooth marks. Think about the differences in the textures and the marks that you have been making and try to add something totally different. Here I've got some strong line work, the scratchy line work that is different than the bold graphic screen print and the soft hazy acrylic paint. And that contrasts really nicely along with the color that I'm using.